I mean, that'll be fun. Hey everyone, welcome to Discussing Tabletop. I hope you're having a great weekend so far. It is, of course, Saturday. It's September 7th. We're ready to talk about a lot of interesting topics.
Greetings, travelers.
Greetings, travelers. Welcome. What are you buying? What are you selling?
Oh no, this guy.
You're welcome. I hope it's been a fine week for everybody. Momo, how's your week going?
Oh, my week has actually been not terrible for once. Work has been mildly relaxing, surprisingly. And I've been just playing so much Armored Core 6. That game is like... I don't know if you ever played an Armored Core game, but it's very much you spend like an hour or two designing the perfect mech, go into a mission, die in 6 seconds, and have to do it all again. You just made something that doesn't work in the mission. All the numbers right, and then you die and you're like, well, go back to the garage.
Back to the garage. Those numbers weren't right.
No, it turns out I needed a different mech for this mission.
Ooh. Worm, how about your week? How's it been?
Pretty good. I'm tired. Work has been weird. I have a lot of stuff I need to do. I haven't fully moved everything. I still got my house is still a mess.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. Looks over to... I'm never going to fix that because the cat's just going to lay on top of it again. That pile of stuff over there.
I mean, it's different from, like... It's different from just piles of stuff that I moved into my house and have not organized.
I mean,
and
again,
a pile of junk.
I've talked about having some of that in my room, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I had that in my other room because I just didn't have room for stuff. So there's piles of boxes everywhere. But now I actually have room because I have an apartment to myself. But I just haven't had the time or energy.
You'll get there.
I will.
Even if it'll take 3 years.
It'll get clean when you move next.
I didn't even clean when I moved the first time. Or when I moved this time. So I just put handfuls of stuff in my car.
Alright, well, we do have some topics to talk about. I got a little docket that should be here, or pinned, or below, or wherever you are watching this at the point in time. So I guess we should probably get started on that. And we can start with good old Duskmourn, the new magic set, because we have...
I didn't even know this was the new set. Is this the spooky set?
It's the spooky set.
I didn't know it was called Duskmourn. I just knew it had a TV card in it.
Yeah, it's just like, it's the weird, I guess, I feel like it's 80s horror.
I mean, I like it. To be fair, though, I'm a huge horror aficionado, though.
I mean, it's like, it's actually got a really good, interesting story. I can summarize that. It's a demon, basically, like a greater demon was put in, like, possessed some kind of house, and found out that it had the ability to basically consume nearby areas and increase the inside of the house, and it effectively consumed the entire plane.
Nice.
So, yeah, so the entire plane is now inside of this house controlled by a very powerful demon, and it just torments everybody in there.
This is what I like when they do silly stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's like, it can be silly, but not too silly. It's like kind of...
I don't like the fucking, like, when they did War of the Spark, I didn't give a shit. I didn't care. When they did the new Phyrexia stuff, I didn't care. I don't care about the story arc stuff. Just give me weird planes.
Yeah, honestly, I just like the concept of this plane. I almost want to, like, steal the idea of, like, a demon who was, like, trapped in something, and while he was unable, the binding was so he was unable to leave, he found out he could still influence what he was to the point of where he could, like, basically take over everything.
Yeah.
It's a fun idea.
It is a very interesting idea. So they do have some, like, a bunch of new mechanics. They always do. Some of them are similar to others. This first one is rooms, which are a type of enchantment, which is very weirdly... I
don't like that it's sideways on this.
You cast either... Well, yeah, I know. When you cast either half, that door unlocks on the battlefield. As a sorcery, you may pay the mana cost of a locked door to unlock it. I don't understand that.
Oh, it's like, I guess it's kind of like a flip card, mildly, but like a little different.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, each half is called a door. When you
Yeah.
cast one of the cards, you pick one of its halves. That's the door you unlock. The abilities of that half apply, and then okay.
Okay, so you would play like for the example like Dollmaker Shop. Play that first, then you pay Porcelain Gallery's cost, I guess, to activate that one.
Oh, and you'd use that one more as like a sorcery.
Yeah, okay, these are fun. I think that's a cool idea.
So it would kind of be like you could unlock the other one. I don't know. I guess it would be might be permanent.
Oh, I see. The card is sideways. I'm like, what
yeah.
am I looking at?
They do this every so often with weird card concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then we have another flip upside down card. It started with Morph. I forget whatever one they've done it with, but it's basically another one because it's Manifest Dread.
Fine.
Yep. It's happened before. And then Survival. It's something that actually is interesting because it's the beginning of the second main phase. It has an effect. So that's kind of interesting. So it's basically, if it survived your combat round into the backhand end of your turn, it does something. This one, particularly like the Veteran Survival they're showing, it has to be tapped. So it implies that you probably have to attack it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that there's a card called Unwanted Remake.
It's...
Yeah.
I'll have to see all of them to see about how they
the TV card was pretty cool.
Well, honestly, it sounds good. Basically, it's a spell that. Sorry, I'm still new to this. I'm like, okay, wait, what kind of spell? It will it basically when you kill a creature, and then they have to take the top two cards, destroy one, and play the other one face down as a 2/2 creature, and you can only and you can. It's still a creature you can summon if you pay the cost. But I'm like, okay, that's kind of a neat mechanic. I know enough about card games to know that that's a neat mechanic.
Yeah. I think the Eerie is a fine
I also
ability.
just like the name.
I think Eerie is cool.
Yeah, it's particularly if you don't use rooms, it'll just use for enchantments. But if you use also rooms, because many of them are also enchantments, it can trigger twice. So
Eerie is a mechanic I would use a lot in a deck.
Yeah. It functions with an enchantment deck. It doesn't.
I do a lot of those.
And then it looks like the last one's Impending. Cast a spell for its impending cost. Enters with 4 time counters, and it isn't creature the last removed. Then your end step time counter. Okay, so it's
you can put it out early and then get a little countdown.
It's the suspend ability from Time Spiral with the new.
Pretty much, they just brought it back.
That's fine. I didn't mind that ability.
I actually like that ability. I think that was cool.
Yeah. So basically same. I think this one, the time counters originally for that were at the beginning of the turn, so this is just end of the turn. So it's slightly different, but same kind of thing.
I think it's a little more balanced to do it this way.
Yeah. But it does mean that you would remove a counter at the beginning of the first turn that you would put it out, though, too, which is a little different. But I guess maybe it has more counters to offset that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
So, neat little abilities. Most of them are very similar to stuff we've seen.
It's nothing truly unique, but they're fun.
I think the room one's the closest because it's a split card. That's the
split cards are weird.
Man, I so want I really like. I don't really care very much about playing Magic, and I don't really care to get into it.
Understandable.
I think it'd be fun to play on certain things that are not expensive or free, which they exist. But
yes.
But where was I? Oh yeah. But I really want them to put out more Planescape books for D&D. I think the universe is so interesting in concept.
The problem is that require them to do work.
It really would, unfortunately,
because
it would require
we got what
them, instead of rehashing old IPs.
We got 3 Magic the Gathering books. We got Ravnica, Theros, and Strixhaven, right?
Strixhaven, yeah.
Wait,
and all those are actually Strixhaven is a Magic plane.
Strixhaven does have a D&D book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Strixhaven is a Magic the Gathering plane.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Technically, it's another plane, and it's the academy on the plane, which is just like...
It's just easier to call the plane Strixhaven, for
because
example.
It's like the main source of power there. It's like...
It's...
Yeah.
Like, they do these every so often, but they... 5e just needs more setting books.
It just needs more books.
It
needs more monsters, it needs more spells.
Your Fey runes, you got your Dragonlance. That's kind of it. Eberron, maybe if you're feeling spicy.
Greyhawk, they're getting into now.
I mean, like, the thing is, other than Faerun, I feel like very few of them have actually been well developed. I think, like...
The Eberron one is fine, but Eberron also got a full book.
Yeah, I think the ones that get, like, a real good full book tend to be a little bit better. Like, the Magic ones, I think, were pretty fine. I think, like...
Yeah.
Was Dragonlance fine?
Dragonlance was not... Dragonlance did not get a book. Dragonlance got Fizbins, which has a little bit about Dragonlance and has an adventure path.
That's right, it has
or an adventure module.
Yeah, that's right.
So they haven't done a Dragonlance book yet. They've just done Dragonlance adjacent books.
So, like, I want to make... Sorry, I'm kind of tangenting now, but, like I went and looked because I was curious. And D&D 4E had over 3,800 monsters in it.
Yeah.
Printed officially before its end. And how long... Actually, now I need to look. How long did 4E go for?
5e, I think, has a little under 2,000 monsters, if you exclude reprints.
Let's see. Well, okay, let's go. So
I think the thing about 4E, though, is they had a lot of custom
to 20 to basically 2012. Okay, so yeah, wait, say that again.
The thing about 4E is that had a lot more custom monsters, because a lot of them were just monsters specifically for a legendary. I feel it's kind of like something that, like, I feel like they do that a lot more. At least I've seen it more. I don't know about 2nd edition Pathfinder, but 1st edition Pathfinder, they have plenty of monsters that are, this is a unique monster, this is in this spot, kind of thing like that, too.
Yeah.
5E does a little bit of that, but I feel like it doesn't do it as much.
The problem with 5e is there's a monster manual, and then everything else is in the back of an adventure module.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not an easy way to access a lot of monsters legally.
I think that's also the thing that, like, a lot of other adventures would put out more manuals and just be like, this is a combination of everything we had before, now in a big format. So if you didn't get those adventures, you can have them now.
I mean, 4E had three like core monster books, and then like 4 special ones like the Demonomicon, the Dragonomicon, etc. that had other features in it. So they had like 5 monster books plus all their modules, plus just okay. And the thing I'm looking at that has all of them, it includes all of the Dungeon Magazine releases that had monsters in it, but those were still considered official. They released like periodic editions with more abilities, more monsters, more blah blah periodically. Like, I don't know if it was once a month.
But how many did you say was in 4E?
Like over 3,000.
Yeah, and with the statistics Lightning gave, which was in 8 years.
These are a little old, because there were a couple of books released after this.
But let's just say, like, even if it's a couple hundred more.
Probably around, it's probably still around the 1,600 number.
So in, like, 6 years, you had 3,000 choices to 10 years, maybe, 1,800 choices, which is, like, half the amount of monsters.
Well, the thing with 5th edition is, it's also really easy to just make your own monsters in 5th edition. It's actually the easiest it's ever been to make your own monsters.
Yeah.
I think that's
There's not a lot of moving parts to worry about on a 5th edition monster stat block.
Again, like, I both agree and disagree with that, because my attempts to build it oftentimes resulted in, I don't know what the balance is, because they don't tell me what the balance is, and generally speaking, if I aimed for the same, like, level as my players, I didn't have to worry, but if I couldn't make more challenging fights, because they could be, like, much more challenging. I tried that out for a while when I was experimenting with it. I think I did a lot of it back when I did my Madness game, and some of them worked well, and others did not.
It's a
and
skill that takes learning.
Yeah, that's the thing about 5e. I would say it's really easy, but it just takes a lot of...
The best way to do it, in my opinion, is
tweaking.
To find a base stat block. Like, say you want to just have a dude with a sword who's going to beat your party up. Start with, like, if they're low level, a bandit. And then just change a couple things on it, or a veteran and change a couple things. That's how you have to learn, but that takes time.
That's the thing is, though, I was trying to do that, but the thing is, because there's so much difference between this, in one CR between monsters, figuring out which one to work from when playing around with that was, like, a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah. Here's another thing.
I think it was just, I don't like that they have variety in a CR. I think that's just the problem with their entire CR system rather than the custom system. I agree, the custom system's actually pretty good. I just think their difficulty system sucks.
Okay, I actually want to add one more thing to this. The over 3,000 like specific monsters also does not double count reprints, and they have a lot of reprints. So like these monsters were in like 4 different books, you know, and so it's like even with reprinting the monsters in different books, they still managed to get this. It's crazy, and I get. But the problem is not everyone has like the wherewithal or the time to create monsters. Like, I mean, I can. I don't find it hard.
I'm going to say this too. I think it would have been a lot more difficult to make monsters in 4E.
It's a lot more difficult. It is a lot more difficult to make it 4E. It's a lot more difficult to make it 3.5. But it's just because 5E monsters are the most simple monsters they've ever had in these games.
Yeah.
But I will say, there is not a difficulty. Wizards has admitted to this, that the way CR is calculated is wrong.
Yep. Like, they do not apply CR...
Yeah, they don't use CR the way in the way it works in the DMG. So it does take a lot of guesswork, and then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I always shoot to try and make my monsters a little bit harder, and if it don't work, hey, I can just adjust things on the fly.
Honestly, a moderately tactical party can handle a deadly encounter.
You've been in a couple of my games, Santis. You know I run deadlier games.
Yeah. Again. It's just one of those things. Is I particularly did not like when I was playing around with it, because like again, I have experimented with 3.0, 3.5, and Pathfinder for building monsters, and it is easier than those systems. But I felt like in those systems, I understood the numbers usually, but not always, better. It was that kind of weird thing of like it's a harder system to build in, but the numbers. The crunchiness makes sense for me in comparison. I think that was just the issue for me. And you're right. If you experience enough of it, you get used to it. It's just a different kind of thing. It's like, I think it's, in this case, is it harder to begin with? Or is it harder in the long run? You know, it's like, you know, what kind of practice do you need for it? And, you know, there's no perfect monster system. Anyway, we should, though, move on because we do have some more topics.
And I tangented us.
Tangent.
That happens. The show is all about tangents.
God. It's supposed to be Welcome Dex, and I almost put in Welcome Dick.
You know, when you say the word long enough, you know, enough times, everything, it just becomes a different word.
So apparently we are getting basically a return of Welcome decks, which I guess is like intro decks. They're like I guess classically print cards and stuff like that. Probably nothing of really big value, but they aren't for Magic the Gathering. They aren't starter. Well, they aren't standard legal. But if you want to learn or something, it's an excuse to go there with some people and then get a deck for I guess it would be...
I'm looking at the ones. I have the website if you want me to post it.
Yeah.
I got the. Let me
right, yeah. So I'm looking at the card lists on them. They're nothing special. They're very simple. They're very simple for learning how the basic mechanics of the game work, and that's good.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know how much these cost. There's no price listed here, so
Because Wizards doesn't tell us that's MSRP ever.
Well, how much it's going to cost? That's what really makes or
breaks
these.
We wouldn't want to give a market standard price to any of our products.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just tangent here. This has been the dumbest thing in the longest time that Wizards did, is to remove a market standard price, which so countless other companies do. You know why? Because it keeps people from inflating the price and fucking up your economy.
They kind of do rely too much on local game stores to just decide pricing on their own.
Yeah.
That's why I like my local game store, because they decide a lot of the prices at lower than what like Amazon usually sells them for.
Grumble, grumble, angry, grumble, grumble.
Yeah, I just looking at the decks. They're like pretty standard. Yeah. Good for learning.
Yeah, they've got a couple of interesting. Like there are even in the white when I'm looking at this, they're like the two rares that are in here are interesting and not bad rares.
Yeah.
I don't think they're particularly super costly, but they aren't bad.
I mean, I personally, I have no real use for these, but I do know it's like the jumpstart packs, right? Like they're not of use to me, but I know people who are getting into Magic that these could be useful.
Yeah, like they're jumpstart.
Like me, if I got into Magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to start off with like the most complicated cards known to man, because you'll just hate yourself. And
oh gosh, like I mean, I remember when I played that one time with you guys, and it was all like, here's this ability that has like a giant description.
Yeah, there's some cards that get a little crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. So having something that's a little, I guess, simpler isn't bad. And they did look fine, like fine decks, you know. Nothing.
The red welcome deck is kind of funny.
Yeah, their decks
it's got two creatures.
It's a burn deck.
It's a burn deck. It's like, this is red, you do burn.
I mean, that's not the only thing for burn, but it is like the main thing for burn, so I feel like I understand it. It's also like
I hate burn decks. I don't understand why people have fun playing them. I don't get it.
I don't mind a burn deck. It's direct damage, basically.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So,
Yep, you're right. Yeah. That term is in Yu-Gi-Oh! As well.
Yeah.
Because I can't say anything. I play blue. I'm a filthy blue mana user. I can't say what's fun in the game.
Like, I do have a deck which can be called a burn deck, but it's a red-white deck, so it's made to basically like do damage, steal life kind of things. So.
I had to stop playing my blue deck because it just wasn't fun for anyone else but me. Very much, the joke of blue is the fun is you don't let other people have fun.
Yep.
I have some of those decks. I'm not gonna
That's how you play blue. You don't let your friends have fun.
Look, I have, what is it? There's the discard mill blue-black deck.
God.
I don't play it a lot. I have my red-blue deck, which is to steal everything from you deck. My normal blue deck is just I draw every card in existence and then eventually get Laboratory Maniac and call it a day.
I do have a deck like that, but I think I more often kill myself with it than actually win the game.
My straight blue deck's kind of old like that. I think my blue-white is Wizards, blue-green is just like... I don't know what my blue-green does. It's weird. It's Simic. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, my most played decks are red and white.
I've got a deck of every color and a couple themed decks.
I have a couple USA decks, red, white, blue, that I like to play.
That's what they call them.
Yeah, that is actually what they're called.
I also own a sliver deck. So...
Oh, you're disgusting.
I know.
I had a proliferate poison counter deck when that was a thing.
Oh, God. I got one specifically from the Scars block, a poison counter deck that's just mean. It's a green black. Hi, Blaze. Thank you.
That deck ended up banned in our school club because it was just not fun for anyone. We banned poison counters.
Look, I'm not gonna lie, the infection stuff.
Infection was a dumb mechanic. It should not have been made.
Yeah, there's some I think there was they took it too far at some things. Like if the poison counters were your health, it would be something else.
It's real bad.
But it's like half.
It's like
your
what
health.
you only had you did 10 of them and then you're dead.
10 of them. Yeah. So you only had to do that.
No, the proliferate.
Blaze, you did have 2 sliver decks, but one of them was less of a sliver deck, and it was also a sliver deck kind of thing. It had other mechanics that just happened to use slivers, and it was actually a really cool deck because it mixed the other mechanics with just because it was like a white-green sliver deck, which is really unusual for a rainbow one. But anyway, we can head on to talking about everybody's favorite goddamn D&D Beyond, because we can't get out of a week without talking about D&D Beyond.
It's not a bad couple weeks for D&D Beyond.
Oh, okay. So for people who are close to Magic the Gathering, Sliver is a monster type.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah,
dealt with
sorry.
those in the D&D game, kind of, that was magic based.
Yes,
We dealt with
we
the
did
Sliver Queen.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I just
I think
looked
Joe
that up
was
'cause
a
I'm like,
weird
what are they
Sliver
talking
thing.
about?
Yeah, it's a specific type of creature type that it grants its ability to all others
Yeah.
of the same creature type when it's in play.
Mhm.
So, like, and they all, like, give abilities. So you have, like, a whole bunch of them, and you just stack them, and they become gross. And then
Yeah, it's like, if you play one, I'm getting off
Yeah.
up out of the
No,
table.
I honestly just didn't know what you were talking about. I thought that might have been a color combination. So that's why.
So, the first big thing there's a bunch of little things here to talk about, and I think the first big one is we do actually have some Errata coming in day 1 on
Of
at least
course.
D&D Beyond. There you go. There's the change log. It's you know. Well, I think there's.
I did
there's
see
a
that
change log.
they did
Wait,
release the
wait.
free rules.
They did
Wait.
release the free rules.
This is gigantic.
Yeah, it's a big one.
This is absolutely gigantic. Like, okay, I want to say that like Paizo's ones they had were like maybe like 20 bullet points per book.
Okay, well, like this also includes all the change logs too.
I know.
Yeah,
but-
this is like the big batch.
Yeah, but it's just like, okay, maybe it's not as bad, but I feel like it's still going to be bad.
Yeah, the big one is only this updating D&D Beyond tool sets for 2024 core rules. The rest are old.
Yeah.
Okay.
But effectively, it's like we are getting some errata already for day 1 of stuff.
Yeah, it was gonna happen.
Okay, so this is basically how to switch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How to
I do
convert,
have
which
some.
they said they would explain in the
notes.
book, but they didn't.
I do have a few notes here from the some of the errata that we already have. Just to note, Giant Insect spell contains a clarification on its HP. Yes, they didn't have that in the spell.
No, they
Shields
didn't.
now require a utilize action to don or doff.
Yeah, that's
Really
a new
keep
one.
forgetting that it's doff to
It is-
remove it.
It is doff. That is
It
the
is
term.
I know, but I say I forget that. It's like, there. Goliath's powerful build now specifies that it grants advantages on ability checks to end the grapple condition instead of saving throws.
Yeah.
True Polymorph's spell description no longer states the spell effects ends if the target's temporary hit points run out. Okay. The telekinetic feat now specifies that it grants an increased range use of Mage Hand instead of stating that you can cast Mage Hand at a further distance away. These are just some of them, but we do see it tells us there's already going to be a lot of like little minor differences that we might get more.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on the change log.
I will say it once again.
This is one of the
I
threads I
personally
found.
believe you should not use D&D Beyond because of this kind of stuff.
Yeah. They do have the 2024 rules up, the basic rules for free.
Yep.
Already up on D&D
I've
Beyond.
read some of them.
Other things is I'll give this because we talked about the updates, but I will say, like, if you also wanted to see what they say the updates are, they do have an article on that.
Yeah, I was gonna post the actual change log.
Yeah. So that's the entire thing there. And the other thing that does exist, which you can find, and this is something that actually, like, I'm very happy that you can find and get. Hey, guess what? You don't have to just buy the character sheets. They actually do provide a PDF of them on D&D Beyond.
Oh, thank
website.
God!
Yeah,
You
like
just
they
print
didn't.
them out.
Yeah, they didn't say that. They were just like, oh, it's
That was
because
a
the thing is,
huge concern.
it was a huge concern because it's like it's it wasn't in the book, and it was a separate thing to buy. So it's like, are you going to release it? They did. It's a good thing that they did. I'm not gonna lie. It
Yeah,
makes me happy.
that was like real rough when they're like, "Can you just gonna start charging us for these things?"
I'll just link the PDF. So if you click on that, so if you want to check out the character sheet yourself,
Yeah,
there you
it
go.
is. I think the character sheet's fine.
It's a character sheet. I mean, it has some less things. It's 2 pages instead of 3.
It's condensed.
It's condensed.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't know. I haven't had enough chances to spend it with any of the decisions. So I guess it's sort of like, I guess we'll see more rules errata now that we're getting the stuff up on D&D Beyond, which is going to be interesting because, again, like, this is stuff in the book, in that first edition book that people are going to be getting,
Yeah,
which they
man.
probably have all printed out now. That is wrong already. I really want to see the full list of the errata when they got.
That's gonna be pretty big, I imagine.
Okay, yeah. Now I see what you mean. Like, yeah. So they haven't released a full. I thought something you posted earlier was like the errata. No, this is okay. They haven't even posted it yet. But honestly,
this is some things that I
6
think...
points addressing things which I honestly didn't even know about. There's so many other things which I know about.
Yeah, that's the thing is we're only seeing a small few of them overall. Yeah. They're only going to need a second printing of the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll be quick and efficient. We can get everything there, and we can get all.
We'll see.
You know, just let me buy the book, and I'll tell you all how to do how everything works, and then you guys can buy it when it comes out again. Just kidding.
I'll give him Wizard's money.
I don't know if it'll be worth it. We'll find out.
I mean, I already pre-ordered it just because I'm like,
Wizards has to earn my money.
Honestly, I'm fine. That's why I keep saying, like, I'm fine being the one to buy this book and show it off on this show. I also did like the alternate cover art, which is part of the reason I wanted to buy it.
Mm-hmm. So, who wants to get drunk with D&D?
That sounds alright.
So, I'll put this here.
I don't recommend playing D&D drunk. It just kind of makes the whole thing a little unenjoyable. I've done it before. As
someone who doesn't drink, being the only sober person in a group of drunk people is literally the worst experience in the universe.
Yeah, we did back years ago. We did a session of one of our old campaigns where we brought alcohol. It kind of got pretty stupid fast. We ended up really not playing, just getting drunk.
So, in November for the 50th anniversary, this company called Dragon's Milk, which I've never heard of.
Oh,
it's a name for a company. Is going to be putting out a limited edition 2 drinks: a brew bourbon barrel aged stout and Origin mead cask bourbon whiskey.
All right, the whiskey sounds alright.
So, yep. There's the silhouette of their 2 drinks, which we haven't seen yet. It's coming out in November.
The silhouette of 2 bottles.
2 whole bottles.
Well, they have some. Okay,
they got some. They got some. They got some.
They do have some merch. You can get a hat, a shirt,
I will be honest.
Some glasses.
The glasses are kind of nice.
Yeah, you know, the other things, they're clothing pieces. It's fine. It's whatever. But, like, yes, if it's like glasses that if you want to do the drink like this with those glasses, I think that's fine. We do have a press release that's linked on their main page here.
Okay, right. Actually showing. They actually show the bottles like actually on a different thing.
Do they?
Kind of like they don't show it like full, but they kind of they half show it. It's like yeah.
Because I can see some of their own drinks that they have from before.
Yeah, but it's like I can't look at, you know. Oh wait, no, here we are. Yeah, here there. Hold on. Well, here's bourbon. You have to go to the store, and you can actually like buy it. I could post the bourbon.
Yeah.
One.
I was looking.
Oh, I know this company. have the other one.
No, that's their stout.
That's their stout?
Yes, they sell those already.
Yes, I thought. Okay.
No, they already sell drinks. There's our limited edition D20 ones, which are
I could
their specific
see
ones.
getting this for one reason. I do know people who collect this kind of stuff. Like collecting alcohol is actually a pretty common hobby.
Yeah,
so I can see this having that kind of thing. Because this is going to be something that is going to have resale value because it's whiskey. And
yeah.
As whiskey ages, it does get more valuable, just like wine.
Mm-hmm. There's not really much difference in the wines. It's just a thing.
No, it's just a culture thing that's mostly used for like money laundering, like art.
Yep.
See, I know the wine one, so as soon as you say that, I'm like, money laundering.
If something is ridiculously expensive for no reason, it usually is money laundering.
Especially when like someone that like
or
knew about wine
thing.
like talks about it and be like, yeah, no, there's not really much difference between an aged wine and a non-aged wine. Most of the aging is before they would put it to market, is what they do most of their aging for. So it's not going to be much different. If someone says it is, they're pulling your strings.
Yeah,
anyways.
I think I've said it before on this channel, but yeah, when it comes to the like art and money laundering, this is basically how it works. And I love this. When someone explained how it's in a simple way, it was so great. You pay an artist like $100,000 to make whatever. Then you take that $100,000 art piece to your friend who is an appraiser, who then appraises it for that is worth $10 million. You then donate that as a $10 million donation to a museum. Now you have $10 million of donation on your. That's literally how like
real. It's a real problem.
Yep. Yeah. So I will say that as many times as I need to, because that needs to get out about how stupid that is.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have $10 million tax deduction for donations.
Again, it might be fine drinks if you like those kind of drinks.
I mean, it's whiskey. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. And this kind of thing is.
I don't know really what. I don't really like bourbon very much.
Stout's a type of beer, I think. So it's like a bourbon barrel aged stout. So
I don't like beer.
It's a whiskey and a beer kind of thing. Well, I think stout is specifically like a type of beer or like
yeah, it is
adjacent. Again, I'm not a drinker, so it's not really for me.
Only on special occasions for me. It's usually a wine.
So
see, the problem is that I have like chronic pain, and it actually flares it up really, really bad if I drink. You may think, doesn't it get better? Nope. The next day,
I use alcohol for cooking a lot, which is a very good way to use it.
So we got a small update from Greg from last week. Greg Tito on leaving Wizards of the Coast. I will share this entire thing here, which was a wonderful thing that tells us a lot more. We were speculating and talking a little bit, but he does have a X/Twitter of, thanks, it feels good to do something that isn't just lying in the pocket of assholes. And then he went to clarify, sorry, I meant shareholders.
I respect it. He's just saying what we all think.
It tells you a lot about why he was actually leaving, and he's working for the Secretary of State.
Oh, okay, yeah. That was okay. So this is the guy who he didn't originally say why he's leaving, but now he's all like,
no, okay, but those words there say a lot about what his attitudes were.
Well,
it's sorry again. It's like that one thing. It's like sorry to see him go because he has helped bring D&D to what it was on the gaming side to a degree,
Yeah.
Also, I just wanted, for the sake of clarity, it was not Twitter, it was Blue Sky.
I'm sorry, Blue Sky. Thank you.
The better alternative at the moment.
Yes. Look,
I can talk to my Brazilian friends there, not on fucking Twitter anymore.
Wait, what? You can't talk
so Brazil banned Twitter because Elon Musk refused to appoint a lawyer.
Oh, okay. Anyway,
yeah, no, Elon Musk is not doing great things on Twitter ever.
Twitter lost its third biggest market, Brazil.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm on both because yes. Although I'm trying. Honestly, I've had a harder time figuring out Blue Sky. it's harder to get to the content I want on Blue Sky. I feel like.
I think it's because it's still a growing place in comparison to something that is to a degree established as Twitter. Granted, Twitter X /
but I have
Twitter
to
is
follow specific feeds, but then those feeds don't always have the stuff I want, and so it's like I just want pictures of dragons. That's literally all I want for my social media.
What art and dog pictures for me?
Anyway, so yes, again, like we were talking about a little last week, and his leaving. After being at 9 years.
Shit, if I fucking worked at Wizards for 9 years, I'd be out too, saying the same garbage.
Yeah.
Fuck
honestly,
that, I'd be out.
That picture of him looks like something that would be on like Seinfeld before he said this statement. Just like, you know, like
yeah.
That's actually a really good picture for this article. But no, I honestly, it sounds like it's just gotten worse in the past few years.
Yeah. 'Tis the fate of all large companies to go this way.
Unfortunately.
Eventually.
Yep.
Yeah.
When see, what I don't understand is the act of pleasing shareholders tends to make shareholders unhappy. So I don't know why shareholders get so uptight about every little anyway.
They want that infinite growth, baby.
Like, even, yes, but, like, even then, it's just kind of like, so why do people nitpick for, oh, the shareholders will want us to do this, but it's like, the way you grow infinitely is to make good products, and then people flock more and more to your thing.
But that's not how they think it works.
Nah, dude, the way you get infinite growth is by just milking the biggest spenders until they're dead. That's what they all think, at least. That's what they all think.
Again,
thanks, video game industry. Starting that.
It is the video game industry has started that.
Specifically the
thanks, EA
industry and EA.
Yeah.
Gotta milk those whales, baby.
Yeah.
So we can talk about NPC Core. So it's interesting because it's still part of their entire core products, but this is an interesting one because Paizo has now announced in this last week, and is expecting to come out next year in February, a book with 250 stat blocks for basic NPCs. I was ready to put the link, and I had it like all copied and highlighted.
I mean, I could have found this. I know where Paizo's website.
So lots of stats, things to adjust ancestry, level, stuff like that, so you can easily adjust and recraft NPCs. That's a good thing, you know, if you need to. And a lot of, so not only other, like, custom stuff to help build NPCs, too. I'm hoping they're tables. We don't know yet, but if they give me some tables to help customize NPCs with random rolls, I will also love that a lot. I love rolling on a good table sometimes.
It's weird, because it's like, I do like random generators, but I rarely use them. Yeah,
I meticulously craft all of my NPCs by hand, and then get a little sad when you guys interact with some random guy more than the NPC I did.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing is I actually don't often put too much, well, it depends.
Like, sometimes you put a sexy shark person in a game, and that's all your players want to talk to.
I don't know
why
they want to talk.
In a boat, you go on a boat, and you're like, there's a buff shark dude, and they're like, everyone, I want to know about this buff shark man.
I'm like, I don't care. I'm busy.
What's that shark man doing over there?
I'm trying to do my job, and half the team's trying to get in a shark with a shark person.
Everyone likes the shark people, apparently.
Whatever. They're fine. They're not terrible. They're not great. They're just there. But everybody apparently else loves the shark people. I'm just like...
River especially loves shark people.
Apparently. Anyway, yeah. They're also doing...
Stuff for NPC making is good.
Yeah, also, like, definitely plenty of non-human ones. So, like, you can... They're making sure to have a variety, not only with, you know, the ability to switch ancestries if needed be, but give a lot of, like, you know, I guess, different cultural group
Mm-hmm.
ones too. Like they mentioned the Dwarf General, Goblin Gitganger, Git Gang and Kobold Egg Guardian, which I feel like would be appropriate in their various societies, so it makes sense that you would have a version of that NPC. So,
Yeah, makes sense. Kobold's not gonna stop me from stealing the eggs and making the best omelet ever, though.
Kobold Egg Omelet. It's delicious.
The sentience makes it taste better.
Sentience. Anyway, enough of that conversation.
Yeah.
I like this. I like it a lot. I think this is one of those things that they do. It's sort of like, here's a difference I feel like that I'm happy about between, again, Paizo and Wizards.
Paizo just makes better books. I'm just gonna say it.
Because Wizards is going to give us one monster manual that's going to be both of these things combined in one place, with maybe a couple dozen NPCs.
Paizo just
here's your examples. Good luck.
Paizo just makes higher quality stuff. But Paizo cares. I'm just gonna say it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because Paizo has to care, because Paizo's audience is a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, who knows?
I do think there is a shot that Paizo can get pretty big in the next couple of years, because I think the age of 5e is kind of dwindled.
Well, I have the NPC core now pre-ordered, so I'll get that. Honestly, I've decided I'm going to buy all the cores when they come out.
Probably good if you're going to run a game.
They've done NPC books before, and this one sounds like just another really good one. And I'm happy they're putting out.
Yep. I mean, I'm literally already planning to run one, but I mean, let's be real. It's probably gonna be past February 2025 when I finally run a game. My life's so crazy right now.
You're not wrong with the just little things being crazy and.
So what I find funny, I feel like it's actually the gathering. It's not me running the game that would be hard right now. It's me taking the time to find players. That would be chaos. That I don't have time for.
Players. Yes. The thing that you definitely we're always suffering to find. You want to have some astoundingly awesome tales?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Too bad.
Well, Modiphius is giving us some. And it is very much so, definitely Fallout coded. Because of course it is. And
I mean, it's just a comic book in Fallout.
Yeah. So we have basically they took 4 of their previous digital quests, put them into print, and is including a brand new exclusive quest for levels 1 to 20.
Nice.
So
it's another effective adventure path, which is good.
Again, we've seen that they keep printing out these they keep doing these digital ones. So this is the print version of their bunch of the digital adventures that they've been printing or they've been making put to print. So you could get them individually still, but this one also includes so.
Yep. There's a cool Mr. Handy with a police hat on the cover.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, that'd be Mr. Gutsy actually, because he's got the little military star on him and he's green.
That's true. It's first annual Raider Games. Win the Raider base of your dreams.
I actually like an idea like this because as much as we're like, oh, you got to be the hero in Fallout, it's kind of cool to be a raider.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that confuses me is how the raiders keep getting recruitment after you slaughter them over and over.
Oh, it's just don't worry about it. Bro, I'm surprised they're still alive. They're sleeping next to rotting corpses all the time.
I mean, to be fair, at that point, they're radiated beyond belief to the point of where they just live longer because.
Raiders live in absolute filth in Bethesda Fallout games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like people live much better. It's not like non-raiders live much better.
Want to talk about video games that are related to tabletop?
Oh yeah, video games.
Sure.
Okay, well we got 2 updates. One from, I guess we can start with the Wrath of the Righteous one, and then we can talk about Baldur's Gate, because that's the...
How do you put Kingmaker when it's Wrath of the Righteous?
Because they're the same.
They're not the same game. They're very different.
Whatever, fine.
They are very different video games.
I'll fix it. My brain just didn't want to do with that. Fine.
Technically own Wrath of the Righteous. I haven't played it yet.
Wrath of the Righteous.
I've owned this for a while.
And Baldur's Gate update. So the Wrath of Righteous update, we'll start with that one, which is a weird one because it's guest characters from another video game.
Oh no, which video game?
Children of Morta.
Oh, I mean, Children of Morta is a good game.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I don't know why it's here.
Yeah, that was my entire thought pattern too. It's like, I know that game. It was a pretty good... I never got a chance to play it, but I saw some people playing through it, like pretty good chunk of it, and it was kind of neat, but... apparently, a new quest featuring John, Lucy, and the Wolfcoat Rykir in the World Wound. A new location, some unique enemies, 2 new archetypes with spells and animations. And you get the quest in chapters 2, 3, or 5.
Oh, this isn't any weirder than the fact that Pathfinder First Edition has a book for Vampire Hunter D.
It does, you know? I'm not gonna lie.
It's not any weirder than that.
Vampire D does not really...
Vampire Hunter D is not even that good.
I like the original, not the second one. But also, like, I think it's also, like, old... This is their first anime, 90s nostalgia, too, to a lot of joints. It is very 90s anime.
Yeah.
You know, it was... What is it? There was 3 of them.
The manga is still ongoing, by the way.
It's really interesting.
Since 1983.
God damn. Again, this is just me remembering on late night sci-fi channel doing their anime where they would show Vampire Hunter D, Project Echo, Night of the Cockroaches, and one other one which I can't remember. Yeah. So here's my nostalgia for that one.
Understandable.
So that's like your that's weird baby's first anime. Anyway, and then you watch
So
Akira.
true. Then you watch Akira, which is like the best thing ever made. If you're 14.
Yeah, so is the idea they just put these characters into...
I assume there's going to be some kind of story about it in like the quests, but it feels like a weird fit.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it's coming from the World Wound, so maybe there's like some kind of like weird cross-dimensional, like, oh, the wound has brought in people from this other universe.
I hope they're brokenly overpowered.
It does say that you're trying to, like, because the World Wound is dealing with, you know, other dimensional stuff, that's why they got drawn in, and you're trying to get them back to their world. So
Hey, you know, this adds the best thing. Adds
correct.
more. Adds another female hairstyle to the game. And some archetypes. And a location. Ooh.
So if you want to use your link,
Here,
because
let
your
me
link's probably
post
better.
the
but-
actual patch
So
notes.
Patch
Tantus,
notes.
you're gonna restream Wrath of the Righteous now, right?
God,
I would.
no.
You know, if I just
I wouldn't
don't
watch
ever-
it, but
don't ever
hey.
do that.
the hell which was Wrath of the Righteous.
All right, so I'm gonna say first off, one, be warned. There are some slight spoiler gifts in this post because this is the patch notes. It is assuming you have played the game already. But Baldur's Gate 3 has got its final content update. At least this is what they said would be the final content update. We'll see if that's true. Played a little bit of it with Lightning. We had a very fun time. Not a lot is different in Act 1. This mostly added evil endings to the game because there weren't many of those.
Yeah,
I believe
well,
every
they
companion.
added-
I believe every companion has a specific evil ending now,
Oh, that's cool.
including Karlach, which is weird to think about. The other big thing that's added.
I know they added more for the Dirge earlier already.
Yeah, they added a bunch of new endings.
little-
The other big thing they added is mod tools. They released them finally, so modding the game is much easier now.
Oh my gosh! Wait.
It also has an in-game mod manager now.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I don't know if I should say it, but I'll just say based on what's in here, the bard that can temporarily join your party, they're gonna make that hit so much harder because you can play as her for a period now.
Be honest, in the game I'm doing, that didn't happen. So I think it's still a little bit buggy, or there's some specific events you have to do on a timer.
Maybe, yeah.
Because Lenny and I we're just doing a second playthrough finally, because we wanted to do another playthrough.
I assume you probably have to meet her and then sleep before a period, or meet her, then sleep, then she joins.
Yeah.
Before a period of time.
I will say
trigger later. So if you like go a long time without triggering it,
the patch is 12 gigabytes.
Yeah,
it's a big patch. It's a very big patch.
So it makes sense that they might have some.
It did add a lot of new bugs to the game, I will say.
Yeah.
There was a very fun bug we had where we got us in the Nautiloid, the little intellect devourer dog.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to not have them in Act 1. We didn't have them, yet for some reason on my UI it said we had them for like just two long rests.
All right,
way. It's added a couple new bugs. There was a bit where we talked to a goblin, and for some reason on Lightning's perspective, there was just a big white circle over his face, like he was being censored for his protection.
All right.
Yeah. And it does seem... Oh, and they're adding a mod tool. That's actually really nice.
Yeah, the mod tool's out. The fact there's an in-game mod manager is really nice.
Is it going to be the depths that was the Divinity 2 mod?
I think it's a little bit better than Divinity 2's, because people actually mod this game.
But like Divinity 2 had its like the tools that were so in depth. It was basically like a DM kind of thing almost.
No, these are not that level.
Okay. I think they were still buggy, but that was kind of like what they.
No, I think they had talked about doing that, but decided against it because it's kind of doing it with Divinity already barely worked. Doing it with something with as many moving parts as Baldur's Gate 3 would be impossible.
Okay.
To get it to function properly.
That makes sense. It's one of those unfortunate things. It's sort of like, well, that would be nice, but also yes, just break everything that in existence.
Yeah, there's a couple bugs we encountered, but it's still Baldur's Gate 3. Cool. And it's got more content now. I posted the patch notes because the patch notes are always kind of funny to read through the fixes because there's a lot of weird, funny issues that tend to happen.
Yeah. We can move on to chat a little bit about DragonCon, because there was this...
I did see that DragonCon was happening.
Yes. We talked a little bit about it, I think.
I saw it in the dumbest way on Twitter. People, I don't know if you know Dropout, but people are cosplaying Sam... what's his name? Fucking... The Game Changer guy.
Oh, okay.
And they're just playing Game Changer with random people at the con. It's very funny. Sam Reich, that's his name.
Damn.
Why is this full of memes? Is this just a fucking... What is this? Fucking 2006?
Look, the only thing that I thought was important on this summary was the Deadlands Savage for Salvage Worlds, which was an interesting thing that they...
Oh, that's fine.
Where I guess they're showing off the current version of that.
Nathan Fillion gets his whole own panel.
Yeah, look, there wasn't a lot for this one, so I think the thing was like seeing like we're getting something else for because I'm guessing if it's Deadlands for Savage Worlds, it's going to be different than the traditional Deadlands.
Probably.
That was playing card based, and this is going to be, I guess, not playing card based.
Yeah, I assume it's not playing card based.
Look, I'm not gonna
go
lie.
to the Smallville panel.
There was one section of this I really thought was interesting to talk about, but I guess we could talk about
Nathan Fillion and Smallville. I like Nathan Fillion, to be fair. I think he's a good actor.
Yeah, I mean,
he's been some great stuff.
Yeah. Again, it's fine. I think just like there was some interesting gaming stuff that was being shown around at DragonCon. Maybe we'll hear about more of it, but I think it's not a Gen Con, so we're not going to hear the same.
No,
stuff.
It's not going to have as much press.
So
there won't be as many big announcements.
Yeah, whether or not there's anything else to say after it, seeing this, like we're if you want some of your Red Dead Redemption / Wild West,
Hey, cowboys are cool.
Some stuff, Deadlands, and the playing card system of the original Deadlands scares you a lot. They do have the Savage World version.
Who doesn't love a good Western?
Yeah. Just wanted to kind of share that, and then we have 2 more probably small topics to talk about. One is about a man, and one is about a sign of the apocalypse.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I always said that USAopoly would bring about the end of the world. And, so, this one actually is an interesting one because we have a announcement of a new CEO for Asmodee.
Oh, interesting.
So, we talked about a little bit how Embracer Group broke apart, and Asmodee became their own thing again, but also with some other stuff added into it because it's like a third of what Embracer was. It's just keeping the Asmodee name. I don't know. There's so much falling apart and like restructuring there, but like this new Asmodee group has a new CEO, so they finally, I guess, beginning to stabilize.
Will much change? Probably not.
You're right.
Asmodee is going to keep Asmodeeing as they were before they were bought, I assume.
I mean, like, my experience with it was they were just, like, in charge of a bunch of smaller, like,
Asmodee is kind of, like... The only real concern that existed for Asmodee is that for a while they were buying up a lot of property.
Yes. Like, I'm not going to be 100% who's under them now, but there was, like, Fantasy Flight was under them. I know.
Yeah, Fantasy Flight was like one of the big ones. Lookout Games as well.
Lookout Games. Was it Con?
Yeah.
Under them too. Every time I try to say Catan, and I always try to, like, every time I say it, like, first it wants to come out as something else. And I don't know. It's something about that word. It just briefly breaks my brain every time. Yeah. So. Hopefully speaking, they'll do okay. I don't think they're particularly great or terrible. They're just kind of...
They're like a nebulous entity, kind of, honestly. There are worse companies. I think the board game industry really benefits from the fact that it's a smaller market than, like, video games, so you don't have the truly heinous actions.
Except for
Hasbro. Hasbro's like the one bad, like really bad company for the industry.
Because they keep hiring people from the video game industry.
Yeah, because they do keep snatching up video game executives.
They're like, this is a great idea. They make great decisions.
Why does everyone keep doing that? The video game industry is literally actually starting to go downhill right now, which is probably why the CEOs are available.
The main thing is because video games do just break in a lot of money.
They still do. It's like the industry is collapsing.
They do, even though it's collapsing, it's still raking in.
I would say it's actually barely collapsing, in terms of profits, at least.
What we're seeing is like the change in the upper industry in certain ways that it might not be enough for any kind of major restructuring at this point in time. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna get better, that's for sure.
No. Yeah, it's not. People need to just stop buying like AAA games, especially when indie industries are actually able to put out like.
Yeah, hey, why buy a AAA game when you could buy quadruple A games by Ubisoft? Am I right? Like Skull and Bone that no one played,
or Concord, which is already
which shut down in 3 weeks of release.
Yeah.
Yep. So hopefully this person will lead Asmodee to directions.
I think it'll be like fine. I think Asmodee. Yeah. I think we can relax, guys. I think Asmodee will be okay.
No. I mean, it's not like they'll do any worse than they did, being bought out, sold over and over
it's
again.
Like it'll likely buff out though. I just hope they go back to releasing Star Wars stuff, because I would like reprints of the Fantasy Flight games, which were slowly happening, and then Embracer exploded.
So I have been avoiding a lot of USAopoly because they
are
the
better.
Just powerful. But this was so
I see
weird.
the word there. I know what that word means.
It is indeed a random Guy Fieri monopoly.
Is there really enough like content for Guy Fieri to do a Monopoly board?
I don't
Yes.
think
You don't need a lot for Monopoly.
What does he do besides
I
like
guess-
the one TV show?
I guess he has restaurants. I don't know. This is
So-
Well, I mean, his restaurant is, I
weird.
assume, is Flavortown,
Okay,
right?
so wait, hold on. I can. So the tokens are his '68 Chevy Camaro,
Makes sense.
sunglasses, cheeseburger, kettle barbecue, knuckle sandwich casino coin, and pizza.
Oh, yeah, I
Those
respect
are
it.
those are the player tokens.
I again like this is like it's so weird and kind of like why do we need this? But it's not
Look.
terrible. It's this weird thing, and I think this is the sign of the apocalypse of stuff that's just weird and useless but not terrible. If it was terrible,
I mean,
at least we would know
I mean,
to avoid it.
It
It's a
is-
monopoly.
It is terrible because it's Monopoly.
It's Monopoly, right? It's the worst board game. I don't know why people continue to purchase
Well, I mean, like,
Monopoly.
everybody
I mean,
knows
the-
it's terrible as Monopoly.
I think the best thing about Monopoly is it just proves how terrible like the modern concept of capitalism is.
I'm pretty sure every American household has a Monopoly board. You don't need
Yep.
to make more. You can just stop. Oh, this is also not the worst Monopoly board I've ever seen. I have seen some truly heinous ones, like the fucking David Bowie one.
Look, I gotta link this article, which brought it to my attention first before I went.
Yeah,
to
so
their
it looks
site
like
to see
the
it.
stores are just like
just
different
because
restaurants.
just because of the quote from the CEO of USA Hopley, who's like, "Why do you think this? Why do you think this? We love Flavortown. Not only honors the beloved Monopoly tradition, but also pays homage to Guy Fieri's palace creativity and culinary prowess."
All right, so
Does
how much did Guy Fieri
Does
pay
it?
this person?
Does it?
How much money did Guy Fieri give Dane Chaplin? What's that one?
Look. I'm not gonna lie. There are people that like his restaurants. It's one of the reasons
I have
I think
zero.
his
I don't know anything about this.
I
guy.
have never been to any of them, but I think because of like he could not have made it into his position without at least being a food person, without having at least to a degree decent food. That's
Yes,
the kind of thing. You
ideally.
have to say.
He's probably got above average food, but has an equally above average personality. Which
It's
is
also
where-
his persona and his personality are
Yeah.
the big selling point.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, I just don't think Monopoly is a great way to show off creativity and culinary prowess. Like, this
Yeah.
is-
Anyways, this is not the worst Monopoly board I've ever seen. The worst one is still the D-Day Monopoly board.
Oh fuck, you're right.
That's still the actual, maybe the most offensive board game I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is.
Hold on.
That's a real
Was it-
product, by the way. You could buy
I
it.
know.
It's definitely it's terrible. The David Bowie one they did was also really bad because he's
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah. Wasn't the show canceled like very quickly? Like some of these are like it's just like I'm gonna walk away from this awfully now. I've dove into hell.
I don't know
for
anything
once,
about
for
this
what-
guy. I know he has the diners, drive-ins, and dives or whatever. That's like his show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he has like a show where he goes around and reviews them or something.
Look,
like
I'm
that.
not gonna lie. That actually is a pretty decent show to find.
I mean, I
places
watched
when was
some of
traveling.
it.
When I went traveling out west, we actually used that to find some places to go to, and some places like that were actually really, really decent and nice and good food in that. So it's sort of like one of those things. I don't mind those kind of shit. Like, yes, you have to deal with Guy Fieri, but at least it's showing off interesting places you can go visit in a place. You don't have to watch the show. You can just see what he's gone to, and then just go to those places.
Yeah.
Shall we?
D&D Monopoly is weird. I'm looking at it now.
It's a weird one. It's a baffling one.
I think it still went to didn't it go to some kind of charity or something too. So it was like, at least it was like supporting.
I know it was a
so
French company that made it.
Yeah, and it was like supporting something too related to
It's just a
place.
weird.
It's like
weird thing.
It was such a weird product. Anyway, shall we deeper discuss the topic?
You do that, sure.
Yes, I thought of one, and this is a topic I had on the list, but I kind of wanted to bring it up because we've been having a lot of like kind of combats and a lot of stuff, especially like let's say like Wednesday's been a lot of combats, and I think those combats are pretty simple combats. They aren't what I would like to call the action-oriented combat. What's an action-oriented combat? A combat where shit's going on beyond just the combat that can become involved with. Let's say like, someone's lowering into a vat of acid or something and you have to rescue them. Or, there's a ritual that you might have to disrupt. Or, it's a combination of maybe environmental and other things going on that make it more than just I'm fighting a monster back and forth.
Fighting a guy.
It's more.
I have a thing.
Okay.
Give me a second, but yeah, keep talking. But
okay.
Fighting a dude with a sword.
Fighting a dude with a sword, and you can find those in a lot of different places in a lot of different forms. This type of combat, but I think it's like an interesting type of combat to discuss because it's one of those ones that I do think it's very good to add a variety to your adventures a lot of times. But it's one of those things that I also think is careful not to overdo it.
Yeah, you want it as a big crescendo. Yeah,
and I think this is one of those things. Is when I was thinking about this and choosing it, it was one of those things that there is a lot more of this in D&D 4e.
Yeah,
but I also feel like in that sometimes it was a little much for the combats. From playing through it for the pre-made adventures, at least they did a lot of it. It's sort of like. Pre-made adventures are never going to be a perfect thing. They're always going to be balanced in a certain way. We talk about the Pathfinder one and how it's got a lot of issues technically. I think it's the same way that way. That's a kind of spectacle that's very easy to bring in 4E because of the nature of the system. They use it a lot. But you kind of still want to have these big spectacles. And, it's a crescendo to an area or an entire dungeon. It could be something that's a big story beat. Maybe it's not the final room, but it's a story beat room where you have a crescendo of something actiony happening that your characters have to be involved with more than just the combat, and it can be kind of interesting there too. A combat that leads to a chase, or a chase that leads to a combat. I think there's like a million different ways you can do this that adds a little bit of action, and it's a level of creativity, for one thing, to add it. But also it's sort of like, you can tell stories through it's another type of environmental storytelling, but it's like, not just the environment, it's what's going on in the environment. Yeah, I think that's a way of saying
it. Sure, you could say it that way.
Yeah. What were you looking up, Worm, since I think you finished up your entire adventure?
Maybe. Yeah, basically, I remember now that this is less what I was thinking and more plots in general, but I really liked the idea of this for... Anyway, there's a thing called the Big List of RPG Plots. It's literally, you can get it for like $2 on itch.io.
Okay.
And I love it because it's just a bunch of different, it's basically lists just a bunch of plot concepts in really interesting ways, and just being like, hey, if you're but I feel like a lot of them can be tied to combat.
And I think that's the thing too.
A lot of them.
Yeah, it's a good way of tying your plot or aspects of your story to a combat. And it certainly speaking we've talked about freshening up your combat with an environment, with maybe there's a trap which triggers the combat. Maybe there's something that happens that triggers the combat, all the kind of things like that, make it that's more than just you stand in a room and fight something, which an interesting monster can be interesting, but it's still fairly standard combat. I think something that comes to mind that would have been a very actiony combat that I had, that I didn't run. I don't know if Blaze is still here, but Blaze might remember. Our friend was running a Pathfinder 2nd Edition game, the big one that I was in for a lot of adventures. And there's this one room where some people were working on, like, it was like an abandoned crafting shop, and they were working on the machines there. And you interrupt them, and that causes the machine to go haywire. So now, either someone has to disable the machine, or you have to deal with the machines, like, throwing stuff out all over the place while you're battling with someone. So it ends up being kind of a hazard, but it also is part of, like, they were doing this illegal thing with this machinery, and you're interrupting them kind of thing. So it's a combination of this kind of storytelling, it becomes a danger, it was an interesting thing that added something else to the combat. Yes, it ended up also being like a mixed hazard because someone would have to worry about something being thrown at them like a turn, but it could be you or enemies. And then, you could try to stop. There was a lot of, like, depths to it. Or, I've been in adventures where you have to stop someone from being sacrificed and you only have so long to do it. Like, someone's doing a ritual, so you either have to interrupt the ritual or, like, get the person out. Like, as I said, the lowering the victim into a vat of acid is probably the more, cliche version of that, or vat of, like, boiling oil or something, I guess that's, like, used in a lot of, like, old superhero stuff, too, but you can use that in your own games, too.
Oh.
Not.
Yeah. But basically, I always feel like it's good. So when it comes to, like, plots, you really can narrow it down to certain ideas to a degree. I think there's... Obviously, the way you execute them is the most important, but you have some very basic ones, like capture the flag. You need to go in, get something, and bring it back. There are monsters in the way, but they're not your objective. King of the Hill. You basically have to prevent something from happening or hold a place for a period of time.
Yeah.
You've got... let's see. Yeah, like rescue the hostage could be a type of capture the flag, Then you've also got do something before a time period, and you can mix and match a lot of these, and
so it's like you can take these concepts and simplify them down very much, and then once you simplify them, you can customize them to whatever you're doing.
Yep. And I did write down a whole bunch of these at one point in a file, and I cannot find it. But anyway.
I mean, the easiest way to do a more involved combat where there's something going on is just to use layer actions. Which are how you're supposed to do it in 5e. Because 5e actually doesn't really support super involved combats that well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like 4e did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think 4E was one of the better ones to do that.
I should say that the reason for this is 4E is first and foremost a war game. 5e is half a war game, half a role-playing game.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was one of those things that early on in 4E I've always said was one of my major complaints was like the mechanics of it was so heavy war game. You did not it's not you couldn't add that role-playing aspect, but you had to add that on your own.
Yep.
It didn't have a lot of it built into the characters and stuff like that. You didn't have a lot of that flavor and abilities that felt like it could mix and match. Because there's a lot of stuff in 5e that does go to combat, but also goes to more like out-of-combat stuff that are character abilities.
Yeah.
So, every system balances it out differently. And I think there are probably certain systems when it comes to combat that this type of stuff works better in anyway. I'm going to tell you here, I just thought about it. Probably World of Darkness would do very well for this type of combat. Because
I agree.
Combat's not its specialty, so the out-of-combat stuff is more the specialty that, World of Darkness does. So being this action-oriented where you have a combat going, but that's only a part of the focus, when that other stuff is doing, maybe security's called and you have to deal with a few of them, but more of them are coming and you have to break into a room that involves doing a number of different things or stuff like that, where you can kind of set up this entire stuff where it's a lot more of the environment storytelling does that, and characters don't need to just fight to push the whatever's going on forward.
in some cases, so part of me, like, as a GM, like thinking from a GM perspective, I honestly say tell your players what's going on. Don't leave them in the dark and force them to figure it out, because they won't. They'll just want to kill everything.
Yeah.
So, but after that, I say that honestly, like, make it clear that like they need the objective over something else. Like, just keep putting, every time they kill a monster, just put another one in. You know, like.
It could also be something simple like in an earlier room. Let's go for like the evil ritual. In earlier room, you find some paperwork which hints that they're doing some kind of terrible ritual, and if it's succeeded, something bad happens. Oh hey, we now know we have to stop it. Oh look, they're in the middle of that. We should interrupt that. You know, it's that kind of thing of like, yeah, there's like 10 guys in our way who are trying to stop us from getting to the whoever's doing the ritual, who's not focusing on it. Let's go interrupt that.
I also say if you do something like that, there's a very important point, though, to also make it clear that stopping them is more important than killing everyone. Because oftentimes people think, oh, well, how do we stop this? We kill everyone. Make it like, oh, as the ritual, like you hear them chanting and you see a bolt of energy go and now suddenly like, and hit some random person and they're disintegrated, and be like, oh yeah, this, or like roll a dice behind the screen and say like, oh, this person is hit by a bolt and disintegrated, and people will be like, oh crap, like we don't want to be hit by that, you know? They'll try and stop the ritual over killing people at that point. You know, you gotta provide incentive. That's the hardest part about GMing. The easiest option for players is just to kill everything. There needs to be an incentive.
Yeah, I think that is, again, an unfortunate thing that happens a lot in many combats, is that easy point of access draws a lot of players to it. So, getting them the correct direction is definitely a challenge.
Which is why I say just tell them, you know, tell them what the objective is.
Yeah. You know.
Like, I don't think, I think far too often people are like, oh, why aren't they figuring out what they need to do? It's like, well, honestly, did you tell them? Give them a hint, make it clear. Like, there are ways to do it in game, but worst case, just tell them out of character if they're not getting it.
Yeah, like, you can do plenty to add it into game, you know, where it could just be as simple as, like, the ritual goes on for a couple of rounds, and it doesn't look like they're focusing on that, and you could have, like, hey, just... The DC could be, like, nothing. You just say it's, like, a DC 5 in your brain, and just say, like, roll an Arcana check. Like the wizard rolls it, and you're like, hey, if that continues back there, there's something really bad is going to happen. You're going to have to stop that. You can't focus... You know now, you can't focus on these guys here. Killing them's not going to stop whatever's going on over there. You gotta stop that, you know? It's, you know... You can make it that you don't have to be, like, out of game, tell everybody that, but you can, like, you know, just...
Yeah.
You can hammer it home, as you're kind of hinting there, just in their faces.
You kill the person, their ghost stands up and continues chanting.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, again, it depends on your idea for how to disrupt it, too. Like, you know, is stopping that guy, is removing the victim from the circle, is, you know, disrupting the circle going to stop it, you know? Does it involve anybody directly at this point in time, or is it just, like, it's already in work? Like, again, I think it also depends on how to stop, or how to overcome it, what kind of stuff you've established, but you should definitely leave options. But,
that's actually...
Maybe make it that combat is an option, but it's a very difficult option. So it's like, oh, maybe you do have to kill everybody, but you're probably going to fail if you do, and you're going to have to deal with something more difficult, you know?
Yeah, and that's why it's like, if there's a time limit, tell the players the time limit, even if they don't know. Or make it clear in some other way, like, oh, you see this thing advancing from the walls, it moves 1 square every turn. It's like, okay, well, now I can figure out how many turns it's going to take to die. But, like, otherwise, just like players. Like, this is the thing. I'm just someone who's just like, there's a thing about suspense, but sometimes suspense can be heightened with, like your characters will know there's a time limit of some kind. Like, you're on a crunch, but their time isn't measured in rounds. Players are, their time is measured in minutes. It's like, and they're trying to do things quickly. Anyway, I found the thing though. So there's capture the flag type thing, King of the Hill. Then there's like hold an item. Like, so you need to, like, let's say, don't let this item get into enemy hands. We'll use it to, like, fire down a laser beam from space to kill all your enemies, but we need you to keep that item active. So holding an item, which is similar to the idea of holding an area, but kill, and then kind of in a similar way to capture the flag idea, you also have, like, an assassination where it's like you need to kill a specific target, not necessarily like once that target's dead, you can leave. So but there are a lot more. I'm not going to go over all of them. But yeah. But that a lot of them were derived from the big list of plots. Like, I went through and looked at all of them. I'm like, oh, this could be used in combat in this way. This could be used. It's kind of just an idea of, like, just a bunch of tropes. Like, there's have to be active tropes.
I think it's something that, like, you are correct that it is a bunch of tropes, but it's that one thing that, like, when we say tropes, we don't mean that you're going to, like, be that exact trope. You're going to see that trope, and you're going to figure out how to adapt that to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just an arc. Yeah, I mean, I think people do take the idea of tropes a little bad. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to be a trope. It's like, well, tropes are actually... common media tropes are how people understand what's going on. So you want to use tropes and subvert tropes at appropriate times. It's not about always subverting tropes or never using tropes or being original. It's about, you're not going to be, but you want your audience to understand, aka your players, to understand what's going on. So you need to basically lean into those. And that goes for combat too.
Yeah, I think there can be, like, different versions of this stuff too, other than just, like, again, like, think of it this way. When you design one of these things, it's going to, in a way, be like, a lot of people play video games. There are gimmick fights. There are good gimmick fights and there are bad gimmick fights. You want to make basically, like, a good kind of, like, it's got a gimmick to it. But that gimmick is something that's interesting and story-based a lot of times, too, or something is going on around them, It's a little bit of a gimmick fun, I guess that's a good comparison.
When designing combat in anything, video games, D&D, board games, anything like that, the most important thing you need to think about doing is it fun? Is it going to make the battle too much of a chore for the players?
Yes. I personally think there are ways around that, as just through yes, so that's important. I'm not gonna I will say that. I don't want to, like, say, oh no, that's not important. No, it is actually very important that it's fun. You can make things exciting that would otherwise be boring through the explanations. So there's definitely that point too, where it's all like, you make it interesting. Sometimes you can make things that would otherwise be boring interesting.
Especially for in-depth combats, would it be more interesting to have a mechanic or more fun for your players to have a mechanic that goes off every, let's say, initiative 20, because that's technically when you're supposed to do these things, is on initiative 20, or would it be more fun to describe something happening during the battle that isn't a mechanic for your players? Because it really depends on your group.
Yeah, I know.
If they will enjoy this kind of thing or not.
But also, like, hey, this really hints into what I said, like, when I compared this to, like, the gimmick fight in a video game. There are gimmick fights that people enjoy. There are some people do not enjoy. And you have to kind of think about the same way. Is interacting with what's going on here going to be something that's interesting and fun and, lead to greater tension, greater emotion, interest people more? Or is it just going to be something that people are going to be like, bored with or distracted by? It's a tough question, I think, this is a very interesting thing to add a variety to your game, but you have to ask this question, and it's not always an easy answer about how you add it or how well it's going to actually work in your game.
As a DM, part of your job is being the arbiter of fun for your players.
Yeah.
So you do really need to take them into account when making this kind of stuff. You need to sit back and think, do my players enjoy this kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the thing that's hard right now with, I think, the Wednesday game, where it's all like, I'm loving, because I've never gotten to do this, just chewing through monsters. I'm disappointed that Tantus took out fights, even if they were BS, because, like, I just wanted to fight things. I've never been in a dungeon where you just walk around fighting things before, and I'm loving it. Mostly just because, like, I can see you getting annoyed with it if I've done it a bunch, but it's like, I love it. But I can tell, like, Momo's like, it's kind of a lot.
I'm gonna be real. I let people have their fun. I alt tab and play Arknights. I do something else. I just be on my phone. I play Arknights.
I can tell that this is not your cup of tea.
I think the thing is,
just because when you do Pathfinder so much, this is just how all in-game dungeons are, and it gets
honestly
so painful.
I can honestly see why this is unappealing for Pathfinder. I don't think I would want to do this again in Pathfinder, but I want to do this again in other games.
I think
so. I know it's going to immediately happen. Is we're going to do this dungeon, and then the next person starts like, here's another dungeon. Also, here's another dungeon after that one.
Yeah, honestly,
yes,
like I feel like
no.
Yeah, I feel like there is. Yeah, the dungeons are.
There's technically another dungeon, but it's not quite a dungeon. You will, in the next adventure, you invade the palace, which that's kind of as a dungeon, but it's sort of like it'll be people though, more than like
honestly,
let's just start
like,
killing indiscriminately to make.
I don't know what it was, but like I hated. Like I almost wanted to quit playing because I hated the prison dungeon. I hated that.
There's the prison dungeon. I think was just very.
Which was the prison dungeon?
The one with
the maze or the labyrinth?
The assassins and the weird rock centipede, and then we had to fight the.
Oh, that was like
nothing.
Guard.
It just, I hated it. It was not fun for me. And I think
it's very interesting because it's like that was relatively. I think it's one of these things is that I have had a mixed bag when it comes to Pathfinder dungeons. I've had some that are perfectly fine, but these here, like again, like. I think it's also like what your mindset is. This is a very different than a dungeon crawl game. So when you hit these dungeons, they do feel like a different kind of threat. And even so, this is very old design. You know, it's one of those things is that like I haven't played in a while, but I think it was one of those things is when I played through like Eyes of the Rune, which is a very old adventure path, but you expect it to be a dungeon crawl adventure, where you're getting into a lot of dungeon crawls. It's a very classic style adventure with the way it's built, that you're kind of, you mentally braced yourself a little bit for that type of adventure, so I think it was a little bit more tolerable overall. Though I do have to say, the last dungeon we were in was a lot of bullshit, so I do, the one where we didn't even end it because of the dungeon. We ended it because of scheduling problems. That something happened and we never got back to it, you know. For the last, which was, we were like at the back end of Adventure 5, I think it was. And that dungeon was real bullshit. Hey, interesting speaking that Adventure 5 has bullshit dungeons again. Wow.
Sounds like it's a common theme with Adventure 5 in a lot of Paizo Adventure. That's a bad dungeon.
I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie. Fucking.
I mean, honestly, Scarwall is fine. It's just kind of boring.
Yeah, it's just. But I'm not gonna lie.
I'm a little tired of how, like, I was kind of expecting small skirmish. Like, I kind of wish we fought the Minotaur, and it could have done like 1 damage. It would have been fun just to like smash it. The Minotaur in the closet or whatever. But
your two front-light fighters, it has very little chance.
The problem with Pathfinder, at least first, is the way it's designed is quick combat where your one character points a finger and they die.
Yeah, it is annoying. I do agree. When like it can be solved that quickly. But
I mean, like, it's Joe just hit something twice. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of times. And
the damage numbers are so insane. The combat lasts maybe like 3 rounds.
Yeah, no, and I can totally see, and that's the thing. I'm actually, to be honest, I actually don't think the combat in this dungeon has been that great. In fact, I think it's been pretty bad. But I just like the idea of exploring. I think that's what I really like about it. It's like going room to room and being like, okay, what's in here? What's in here?
I think the exploration part of it isn't necessarily bad.
I don't mind the fights. It's fun to fight. It's fun to roll dice.
Yeah, I think it's just like there are certain combats which are more better well designed than others, and you know, it's just like a setup point. Like, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes there's a combination of things that would have been interesting there, and other times it would not be. And like, there are gimmicks that are going on there too. Yeah, like, I don't like it when you do get punished for exploring sometimes. You know, I think, like,
yeah,
you should face danger for exploring because you know there's danger here, but you don't necessarily want to be punished for it. And I think that's the important difference between there. You want it, like, I think that's why some of the stuff I removed was less interest for exploring and more punishment for that. Like, I'm not going to lie, the Geists would have been punishment for exploring.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you hit that one room where you were cleaning up, that's technically, I made that into a phantasm. It was a haunt, where all of you would have to make saves and just wander to different rooms in the castle, and the Geists would have known that activated because it was nearby them and come over there. So anybody that wasn't affected by it would have maybe had to make choices, fights against it, and then they would have been doing their thing against whoever remained, while other people might have gone to rooms, because they said to roll randomly, where they got to get murdered. You actually did avoid a room with another one of those things, which causes 2 players to fight each other. Like, to actually fight each other. I was going to make it a lot less, again, too, like a phantasm. But I'm like, those 2 haunts were just dicks. Like, they weren't even like...
especially to put, like, a creature that can control it right there. Yeah, I can see why that would have been annoying. Yeah, so I do agree. The dungeon design here has been poor. I'm having fun, but I can totally see why. Like, I'm having fun for very different reasons, though. Like, I agree these fights are kind of meh. But again, talking about...
I think also, like, the mechanic of the dungeon, which becomes, like, one of these things that's very, like, I think overall makes it much more action-oriented. Kind of like getting back to what we were, our original topic. Like, the idea of the chain spirits, not necessarily a bad idea. It's something that, like, it's very video gamey. I'm not going to lie. You've got load barrack enemies.
It is literally a boss rush.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, okay. I mean, it's basically just the plot of Rogue Legacy. Just go and kill the 4 bosses to fight the big boss.
Yeah, and certainly there's some aspects of it too, like the week before it can attempt to make another a chain spirit. I don't know if it's an automatic thing, but like it technically had 4 of the more powerful creatures. So if it made like a lesser thing into a chain spirit, it's probably going to be a little lesser. Like, you know, like, oh, I've made a CR12 thing into a chain spirit, so it can only, because that's like the lowest thing it can make. I don't remember the thing. But, like, you know, you defeat all the CR14s or something like that. You know, I don't know. But
yeah.
Anyway,
but yeah, going back to like objectives and stuff.
The objective, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to actually say something that's kind of important, which is to say, like, do gauge, like, I mean, this may not apply to you, but I would say, you know, don't require something that only one character can do.
Yes.
Like, if, this is one thing where it's like, if you, like, have to pick the lock to leave the room or something, and enemies will just keep coming, and it's like only one player even has the skill. Or let's say it's our party where I have, like, to take a 20 to succeed even, like, half the time. Yeah, that'd be not fun. And I'm the only one with that skill.
Yeah, you could, like, I can think of three different solves there. You could have someone with brute strength break down the door. You could have someone pick the lock. you could have another person that maybe has, like, if we go back to, like, World of Darkness in the modern day, someone that might be able to, like, maybe hack in and get the map of wherever you are and find an alternate route. Or, like, maybe someone earlier had used one of their skills to find that, and, like, or, like, something, like, there's a lot of, like, little things that, like, you could have characters set up stuff over there, and, like, do things like that. Or, like, if it's a ritual, choose a bunch of different skills for different ways that they could begin to do it, and be ready for them to suggest stuff that might be interesting things to disrupt too.
Yeah, like, okay, what happens if I scratch at the rune that's written in the wall? Well, give them a strength check to make a mark towards disrupting it,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I wanted to say, is just, like, don't require one specific person to solve something. Don't make it so one player has to commit themselves the other thing is, don't make one player have to commit themselves fully to the solution. That is to say, like, it's not even that one person can do it, it's just that one person has to continue doing it because they're the one in the spot,
It's sort of like what I like to do.
I failed. Okay, well, wait till my next turn.
I've been trying to a lot more in. Granted, unfortunately, you have one person with a lot of like knowledges, but I've been trying to have it that I give multiple options for knowledge checks and more like checks and stuff like that. I've been trying to give that option more than like what the books would be giving. Like, hey, these different ones for different DCs would work, or you'll get different information, like, oh, you could still roll this. You might not get the same information, but you'll get different information that you might be able to help from, so it's sort of like, it gives variety,
I mean, my headband gave me Dungeoneering. I want to be able to roll Dungeoneering.
And
I know.
That's technically, you got information that was probably different than what Momo would have done. Momo would have just been like more like, okay, it's Thessalonian, this kind of thing. You're like, oh, hey, I can recognize this is a stone that's not native to this area,
I very much appreciate that.
It's always the fucking Thessalonians.
I mean, they're all over Varesia. This is where their empire was. they fucked up a lot of stuff, It's sort of like, I think the best way to describe Thessalonians is, they were hanging out in Aslanti, and Aslanti was doing terrible things, and they're like, these terrible things you're doing, we think you should be doing worse things. We're gonna go over here and do worse things. And the Aslantis were like, are you sure? And they're like, look, you guys, we're gonna do more degenerate things. It served so many other ancient empires well. Don't worry about it. Anyway. And it probably would have gone really bad for them, except a giant stone fell from the sky and illuminated them before it got worse. Rock from the sky solves everything. When your empire goes horribly degenerate.
So, I mean, I just want to give some pointers about, like, what to not do, because, like, I mean, that's when you, like, you can make everyone else have fun, but those are ways to make it so, like, either everyone but one person has fun, or one person doesn't have fun. Like, those are the two things you want to avoid, where it's like one person has to do it, or only one person can do it, So,
I think it also helps that, like, whatever combat situation that's there, that does exist alongside of that, is not one that one particular character must work on. Usually. Like, certain situations, like, if you're gonna do, like, oh, there's an undead horde, certainly speaking, like, a cleric would do really well in Pathfinder. But, you could also just be like, hey, the fighter could wade into these things and just take them out and swap. So you're like, maybe the cleric has to deal with the, like, ritual, and the fighter could be like, hey, no. I'll go just, hold these off kind of here and do my thing, you can do that. It can be options like that, undead.
I will say, on this point, that is literally what Pathfinder is designed for one person to be good at one thing.
Yes, Pathfinder 2 is a little bit better about that. Pathfinder 1D is really bad about that, yes.
I do my best to allow for some extra things, but yes, it's like within the system of 1E, it's not always the best. Yeah,
I've learned that. I actually, and that's another reason why I don't like Pathfinder, because it's just boring to only be able to do one thing.
Again, like, I think it's the one thing that
I've found a way to do it by like actually being able to diversify, but in the end, I still have to fit a specific role because Joe can just do the other part way better. Like I can go damage dealing, but Joe can do it better, so I'm like, eh.
I think it's one of those things. It's very hard with the way that some of the build and the team has built out to kind of like give that like diversity, where it's sort of like, honestly speaking, like Pathfinder 180 suffers from archetypal role syndrome a little bit still too, and I feel like it's something that I always built characters that had a couple of different specialties, so I could do a couple of different things, you know. And it's the thing is sort of like, I never really had that kind of issue with a lot of my old Pathfinder characters, of me feeling like I could only do one thing or I only had one solution. So, I don't know. I think there's just like a lot of little things that I think have resulted in that. Maybe like it could just be the game too. Honestly, this adventure too, and it just is kind of hard sometimes to figure out the right balance between things, and you know.
I just my personal opinion on Pathfinder 1E is just that it's kind of it's interesting, but you almost have to have everyone on the same page, or else like you get one person who wants to break it and it's no longer fun for anyone.
Why you should do character creation together in PF1E.
Yeah.
So you all know, you all do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you really should do that in every system, but
yeah. I think it's forgivable, like, to not do that in something like 5e because characters are fairly standardized.
Hey, you can play a fighter. You're still a dude who hits things with a sword. Every class in 5e is virtually the same to another type of their class, fundamentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and in some cases it's diverse enough, but also they're diverse enough, in my opinion, where you can play a team of fighters and have like one an Eldritch Knight, one a Battle Master, and you can actually make a team that's actually kind of diverse and useful.
Again, I think that's the thing that's both good and bad in 5e in some ways. Kind of getting back to that, is like the system is very built that you could play with any kind of combination of characters and probably make it work very well. That's good. But there isn't. It's like, I think 5e kind of suffers sometimes from a little bit of too much overlap of like everybody can do everything. So like when you're really good at something, you could roll really badly and someone could roll. It's like sometimes when some people that have like a high perception and they roll really badly, and then someone else that has like a perception of 0 rolls the nat like 19. That's great that they still like made that DC that they need. But it's sort of like, it's like, well, I dedicated a large portion of my character to have that like plus 10, and I'm still
there's
the worst of you.
Yeah, there's a thing here, and that is very important, and that is you should allow roles that are only allowed if you're trained. So basically or proficient. Basically be like, okay, anyone who's proficient in history can make this role.
Yeah.
That's actually a way to fix that problem a little bit, and basically be like, no, you are not proficient, you would not know this. Or even just based on their background, it's like, oh no, you are not from this area, so you would not know this.
I mean, that's a little easier on the history, that you wouldn't know it, definitely, I feel like.
Yeah, but
again,
I personally think like perception is hard but sometimes you'll be like, oh no, okay, so who's in the back? Only the person in the back can roll. There are ways around this, and I agree that it's a little annoying, but that never bothered me. That doesn't bother me as much. So
well, again, it's like, it's something that I think the reason why it comes up in my mind a lot more is because it's in a way similar. It's the opposite issue than Pathfinder has a lot more, you know, where like people, because I kind of like, again, I think it's one of those things is sometimes there's an adventure that allows for hyper specialization, is what I mean. Like, you know,
like, I mean, in this adventure path, it's like, oh, if you're a cleric, this, like, well, first off, you couldn't do this dungeon without a cleric, but the cleric can also do a ton.
You need like a paladin.
It's gonna be real. You can't do a lot of Pathfinder with a cleric.
Yeah.
Pathfinder is built around the core wizard, fighter, cleric, rogue.
Like you can replace things and make it work. Like a druid could replace a cleric in a lot of ways. You just need like a divine caster, an arcane caster.
The earlier you get into Pathfinder and D&D, it really is the fighter, wizard, rogue, cleric is what you are meant to play.
I mean, at very least, I feel like
which is bad game design, but it's also old game design.
At least Pathfinder, I feel like, has gotten to the point in its design where the archetypes are like melee person, skill person, arcane caster, divine caster. You know, it's a little bit better, but it still isn't great because you still kind of need that. You need a skill junkie. Well, what kind of skill junkie is it? It could be a ranger, it could be a rogue, it could be a bard. You need some kind of you really need some kind of melee person. Why? Because they're in the front and they're like going to take all the hits, you know, and holding it back. And then you need a divine caster. Why? Because they're going to heal all the shit that's going to happen to you. Arcane caster, because they're going to do all the other variety of spells you need, you know. Yeah, unfortunately. Still having those, like, yes, it's a little more extended than just the original archetype, but the archetypes are still there. And that does really suck that you kind of can't get beyond. At least very much so in first edition.
Yeah, you generally have like I've heard the thing where it's like you got a healer, a defender, a fighter, and for RPGs you have like a skill junkie.
Yeah.
In a weird way, I would argue that like a fighter is generally a defender rather than a attacker, whereas like a mage is an attacker. Because the fighter is supposed to get in people's faces and prevent them from getting close. That's why AOPs exist.
Yep.
It's so they can actually protect the other people. And then you also need that cleric or druid, and then you also just need the person who can just do other things.
Well, it's like Joe does a billion fucking damage, but I'm like, yeah, no, that's a standard barbarian of 14th level. But by the time they get to this point in time, doing like 40 damage on a hit is just normal for a two-handed fighter.
Yep.
It's the normal thing that he's gotten to.
Yep.
I expect this, you know. It's the archer. It's unfortunately numbers go big at this point in time a lot of times.
Sorry, not healer, support. Support, not healer. That's the term. Support, tank, attack, offense, defense, support. Those are the three categories generally in video games. I would argue that there's the you can argue that like rogue kind of falls under support, but I would say that
I think it's every system has its issues at this point in time. Like certainly because Pathfinder First Blood Edition is a much older system, those issues are so much more front and center. It's been a little while since I've done second edition, and I've only done the one adventure, so I can't really point out whether or not there's a balance issue there at all. But I know, like, 5e does a really good job of eliminating the need for a lot of these things most times. Yeah, I'm going to say that on that kind of thing, because certain times there are certain points where you do need certain archetypes, unfortunately, for certain adventures in 5e.
I mean, I think because of the way those are whittled down, it's fine, because like again you say support, but there's like 100 different ways to support. Heal, buff, debuff, all of those can be crowd control, all of those can be considered support. There's 100 ways to defense. I mean, you could argue that buffing is a type of defense.
Again, like
barriers,
I think it's like they're again, it's the forgiveness of 5e makes it that a lot of roles can be just repeated. It's like I think it's like you could do the all fighter group in D&D, but you probably will have a lot of resting. I'm going to be honest, you know, things like that, you know, a lot more than a normal one. And there's a certain point in time where you might fight enemies that you might not have easy tools for it. Like everyone have a magic weapon now to fight things that, you know, resist magic, all that kind of stuff. You know, I think we've gotten to a different conversation now,
we have.
Actually.
Yeah, we have. But ultimately, we were just talking about how you shouldn't make it so only one person can do something in a combat.
Yeah. And so, role balances.
Yeah, role balance, and we devolved into role balance. But, yeah, but in the end, I honestly say, like, look at video games, look at other things, and just boil it down to a core, and then build it up again. And then make sure that as you run through it, make sure it'll be fun. Because there are certain things. I've found that survive for X turns is very boring in D&D.
Yeah. Like, I think most role-playing games...
I mentioned King of the Hill. Don't do it unless, like, your party really likes combat. Because they've been having to hold for, like, a minute in D&D. That's 10 turns. That's a really long combat, and people get so bored.
Yeah, like, give them, like, if you have to, like, there's a lot more, like, ways of doing things. I think we can take, like, okay, I got a good example of one that I used, but I also think could have been made a lot better, and I just didn't know a good way to do it a lot better. The goddamn test that you guys all did in the Shwanti, the one where you had, like, hold up the things, and then the boulets showed up. I didn't mind that so much. Not a gimmick. You just had to keep those things upright while still fighting those things, and it was, it might have stayed up for a turn if you let go of it or something, or maybe fallen down. I think it has some interesting ideas, but also, like, I don't think it's really the best execution on that kind of concept.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I didn't mind that one, because I think the annoying thing about that one was just that we didn't have a very good party for it, but beyond that, I think it was fine.
It's a weird test to have everybody on. I'm not gonna lie. I like the creativity people were trying to give to, like, help things out.
Yeah, I honestly thought that was really fun, having to think through and discuss and figure out how we're gonna do it.
Yeah. I think I like opportunities for creativity, and I think you can add that to any system. Certainly something, it's a lot easier for creativity, I definitely know what I'm going to say, in something like 5e. But even Pathfinder, you can add that in. You just have to be a good GM, and understand the system, and know, how to add that flexibility in there. Because it can happen, and it can be fun.
If you want for them to hold the location... Oh, sorry, I'll let you finish.
I was going to say, and the idea of this action-oriented combat goes into flexibility of combat. It adds... The basic rules of no system accounts for any of this shit, At most, sort of 4E, but not really. It's really easy to add it in. I think that's...
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, if you want to do a King of the Hill, definitely make it so that the players can, like, basically say, you have to survive for 10 turns or do something. Because some players might just want to hold out if they think the other objective is too hard, but honestly, they'll often want to go for the other objective. It's like, hold this objective... Honestly, I think it's better to do hold this objective until, and then you have some parties completing that objective and the other part defend it. That's probably a better way of doing it. So it's like defend this barricade until the steel gate can close, or can be closed.
Yeah,
or you can either advance this closing of the steel gate, or you can fight the monsters.
Give players an opportunity to do something to accelerate the time too. So maybe they want to focus on that rather than holding the stuff off.
Yeah.
Multiple options is always good too. These things. I think that's kind of like what we kind of agree on. More options, better. Is there anything else you want to add to this? Do you think we handled the idea of this type of combat? Even though we did kind of like add in some side topics about.
Yeah, we did definitely do a side topic about archetype.
I may have rules. I may have us revisit party rules.
We definitely should. I think there's a lot to be said there that we said now. Especially because you've got, like, the 4E roll system, you've got standard rolls, you've got Pathfinder rolls.
We were only talking fantasy systems, too. Because I'm not going to lie, this occurs in a lot of systems, also. Like, I can point out how there is a general need for party rolls in World of Darkness and Shadowrun.
I was about to say Shadowrun. Yeah, you've got the mage because you need that that magic side. And then you need the tech person. Then you need No, I totally get it.
You know, frontline fighter, and honestly speaking, a person that can speak with people is
Talker,
bad. A talker.
And it's arguably the techie can also be because you do need a techie, but they can also be like an information gatherer.
There's like skill person that might have like unique like skills that might be required for certain jobs. So there's a lot of things that can they establish archetypes and stuff there too.
Yep.
Figure out which ones are important to your adventure. And hey, that comes down to another important part about you as a GM for any of these things. You can choose. I think we kind of talked about it. Definitely here already with the entire make sure to taper this that your more than one character can do stuff. You understand your character's roles in their party and where they are in the party. You can make choices that are like, this is how your character can interact with this issue.
Yep.
You can have an idea, alter it to your party.
No, honestly, it's better, and here's the thing, it's better to have something, like, you may have an idea of, okay, here's the objective, you need to make sure this happens, or I should say, you didn't make sure that, like let's say, closing the portal. Don't have a clear way of closing the portal. Have something going on, have an idea. I always say have one or two, best is even 3 ways, but also be open for more, of, like, solving it. But, like, have at least one way of solving it, but allow for more. Yeah, don't be the GM who's like, no, you didn't do it this specific way, therefore it didn't work.
Yeah. Alright. Should we leave it there?
Yeah.
We can move on to our week in gaming to finish up for that. Is this a Joe week? Yes, it was.
This week was Joe.
Did you do anything on Sunday, Momo?
Sunday? No.
Okay. So Joe's game, we had that.
We did an investigation that was very poorly thought out. Not on Joe's side. Remember, it was the investigation. We had to find the person. There were people who went missing in Joe's game.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just so, like, honestly, I feel like Joe could have done a little bit better with that. Because he basically is just like, oh, make an investigation check. Oh, this is what they tell you. And I'm like...
Okay, I'm not going to lie also. Joe rolled in a character sheet which revealed stuff that he should have renamed the character sheet.
Oh, yeah, that was so funny when I saw that. He rolled the character sheet and it's all like Night Hag. It's like, oh, okay, well, I know what this is now.
Granted, it made a check to, like, deceive us to a degree, but it was still weird. So it was sort of like...
We all played it not as if we didn't know, which I think was fair.
Again, we played it by the circumstances, which it was like, well, sound like a truth, but this is very unusual.
Yeah.
Also, like, a stranger, even if they sound truthful, offering you, like, to move into a random, like, I'm in the middle of the woods.
Cages?
Here's my wares. Enter this room with cages. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Look, maybe there's nothing shady here. Maybe you're fine, but I'm sorry. This is just weird.
But yeah, discovering this stuff was just weird. Like, I felt like the beginning, we did so much work trying to figure things out, and Joe basically just, like, gave it to us when, like, things and... I didn't feel like he gave it to us, but I felt like he was like, we were like, okay, which place should we go to first? And he's like, it won't matter. I'm like, that's good to know. You know, it's like, I would have liked it, the illusion of the place we went to had the most information. You know, like, we chose the right spot.
I think there was, like, it was just a really weird investigation, too, because, like, it
made
don't
it
know.
up front that there was no physical evidence.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was fine.
Yeah,
but I don't think
it was fine. I liked the fight. Honestly, I thought it was a fun fight. I don't know if Forever DM liked it being trapped as a bunny for like 3 of the 5 rounds, or was it like 4 of 6? Yeah, it was like 4 of 6 rounds.
Look, you know, I helped someone get out of being a bunny and out of a cage because I cast knock. and that was like my big thing.
Mhm.
A lot of ability. Look,
Yeah, basically,
you know,
the hag kept making her concentration saving throw on the polymorph, so we couldn't get our player back from being a bunny.
I have made choices about my character which I do not regret. I'm just gonna say that.
Honestly, I'm glad you had knock. It's like one of those spells that it's like you hate not having it until it's like it's like feels useless until you need it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you really need it.
Yes. So yeah.
I do like my character in that game though. I like Hedwig.
Again, like I think it's fine because it's not a great adventure Joe's rolling off of, and I think that's the main issues I have is I think Joe is doing a fine job for, you know, as a DM. He's not gonna be like putting the world on fire, but he's doing a fine job. I think. Sort of like he's okay.
I think he's doing overall good with what he has. The only way he could do better is to rewrite certain parts, which he's made it clear he does not have the time or energy to do. I mean, if you really wanted to, he probably could. I'm someone who believes that if you really want to do something, you can find a way to do it. I mean, that being said, I haven't moved my desk despite saying I need to do it for a long time. But anyway.
Then we had Monday. We had Rivers game. What happened with Rivers?
We fought some elves.
That's right, we fought some elves. And it went well. You know, I didn't try to put any of them to sleep. So that was a thing that I didn't try to do. They were immune to that anyway.
Yeah.
And we resolved one of the major issues in our storyline, I guess.
True. I'm gonna go kill another elf. They're an asshole.
Yeah. Sorry. Don't we also still have like multiple regicide or something that we have to do?
That's not my problem. Only one of those is my problem, and that's not gonna happen again.
Yep. Anything else happen? Is that just it? Just the battle and we resolved it? I'm trying to think, and it's like my memory is just like very bad for it for whatever reason.
I can help you on this one.
We had Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah. We talked with some more people.
Did a lot of chatting. Did a lot of just chatting.
There was a lot of just chatting.
And then
Sometimes the best.
You're like, you got 2 leads. I'm gonna tell you, both leads lead to the same outcome because they were 2 different paths to finding the murderer.
Yeah.
So like you're probably gonna finish that up in like 2 sessions.
No, that's good.
Maybe even 1 session, depending on which path you take.
That sounds good to me.
And then some other stuff is gonna happen.
I can continue to be hateful of my own people for their idiocy. I mean,
Yeah, you're gonna go and probably finish off the fascist cult.
Damn fascists. Again. What's it with these games and fascists?
It's River setting. River put like, I mean, my game technically has like socialists and stuff in it as well. So it's just the politics. The world is very like late 1800s, early 1900s coded, so that's like a given that this stuff is going to come up because it's a political world.
Yeah, makes sense.
But at the end of the day, you're just fighting cultists.
On my game on Wednesday, you dealt with a dragon by talking to it.
That'll be fine, probably.
I mean, no, he doesn't show up. So.
Yeah, honestly, I actually do think that will be fine. And then we listened to a bunch of doors that had nothing behind them.
I mean, there was the one with the screaming because of that.
Yeah,
that's right.
The one that we didn't hear anything behind for some reason. Weird.
I think no one actually checked that one.
No, we
I'm just gonna tell you.
we were tired,
Here's the cool thing. You could just give us that one. for free. You don't need to
Yeah.
roll for that because the DC is like 2.
I didn't even think about it until you were opening the room though, at that point in time too, because it was sort of like there's so many like there was a few combats here and there, but it's like it was a lot of exploring in that region and a couple of fan castles. And honestly speaking, removing the
I think it was literally just one combat.
technically you removed the second one because the Nightmare left. The Nightmare would have been there too.
Oh yeah.
And so it was really just removing the Geists and removing the one single Minotaur guard in a room. It was in a 10 by 20 room. I'm like, it's like, this is like not a threat at all. It's in a tiny room.
It's just a closet. It would have been easy to just kill him, but I don't know. Might have been fun just to kill him.
Could have been.
You could have also just let us narrate it like, hey, there's a guy in a closet. How do you kill him? There's no way he's gonna beat you.
Yeah, the poor man in the closet. I think also because we were getting to the end of the session at that
Just
point.
was living his life.
So I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, you've gotten through a lot of the dungeon. I mean, a lot.
Yep. I was expecting the anchors to be a little more spread out, not here are the 3 towers, go to each tower to kill each.
I mean, one of them was at the bottom of the tower, but just because he could just fit there. Because he was huge size, he couldn't fit anywhere else. He's like, I guess I live here now. I have to squeeze everywhere else.
He was a friend. I liked him.
I mean, he'd be reasonable to you in the
Is
future.
he lawful evil?
No, he's just neutral evil.
Okay.
Think? I don't think he's chaotic evil.
The orc?
No, I'm pretty sure he's not.
The dragon.
Oh, the dragon? Umbral dragons are chaotic evil.
Ah, he's chaotic evil then.
Oh, okay.
But look, even chaotic evil people can learn the value of friendship.
Not actually, like, certain creatures, though.
I mean, I agree that certain creatures, but because some creatures are just pure chaos or pure evil. But honestly,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But honestly, I've like my favorite interpretation of evil is self-centered. But that I'm someone who personally likes altruistic and selfish is like the scale of good and evil. That's how I run it, at least, and Law and Chaos's rules of society. Which means that someone can be selfish by liking you. Basically be like, okay, this is my friend. I mean, if it's between you and me and there's a bear, I'll shove you down. But if that's not the only way, I'll still do something. You know, it's like they can still have friends, they can still fight for what and who they like. They're just not going to go out of their way for people who they don't like.
Yeah,
that's how I view evil.
Something like a demon probably is not going to have friends, really, but like the dragon, it's going to feel superior to you, but it can find you useful and kind of like, you know...
Yeah.
Especially since you've helped it out, you could probably deal with it. It's still not going to look at you as anything other than, you know, less than it, but it's like, you were very useful to me, smaller creatures. Thank you. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway, I
don't know how much longer it will take, honestly, at this point in time, because, like, this is such a hard
feeling...
dungeon to judge.
Yeah, at this point, I feel like it'd be like... Honestly, it sounds like it's going to be 2 to 4, basically, because at this point, we basically just have the towers, which have the different bosses.
And they are... And some of them, I feel like, are more difficult than others. I'm not really...
Yeah, that's why I'm like 2 to 4, because either it's 3 for each or 1 for each anchor and then the final boss, or it's going to be like 2 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm like 2 to 4.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do something in between, and then
I was originally going to think about doing something in between, but I have come up with a different plan, kind of, that I've got to kind of mess around with. So, I do have to talk to some people, but I'll message them. Maybe later on the night. I'll remember to send a message and figure that out. I think I'm going to save most of the stuff for post-dungeon. Like, we'll maybe make that part of, like... Because it makes more sense than logically at this point in time. something like the healing for mercenaries. You can have that kind of like in the like a little extra of building a rebellion before you do the rebellion. Because I'm not gonna lie, the first part of the next book is really just launching your rebellion's attack. So, you know, I think there is a little bit of like that.
What level will we be
building-
going into that book? Will we get a level up before that book?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe you gain.
I think we need to level up before the final boss. If I remember what he said before.
Okay.
Works.
After you defeat the Chain Spirit, before you enter the final tower, you will be level 15. Oh, sorry, I put up the book.
Okay.
Okay.
That I can definitely say. So you will gain one more level now, and I think you gain 2 levels in the final one. Like,
Yes.
Makes sense to me.
so yeah,
I'm
level 17 is a
basically-
pretty good level to get to.
Yep. I mean, my build will basically be complete at 16.
Most builds will be kind of done by then, but like 17, then wizards and cleric will both have their 9th on the spells, so I mean, that'll just be like crazy.
Yeah.
Again, as much as wizard is very point in murder, I think like it's so becomes situational. Like if Avona can get distance on Condis will probably die because of terrible saves. But if Condis can be right in front and have initiative on Avona, Condis will just smush. So it's sort of like that entire trade-off of characters, if you really would compare them. Anybody else do anything on Thursday or Friday related to...
Baldur's Gate, mostly, on Friday.
I mean, I've been working on my magic system for my just world building lately. Honestly, it's kind of fun. I'm trying to also figure out how I do it in Pathfinder. Make it significant. It's a whole thing. Basically, like, I was thinking, like, if you like specialize in a type, you can specialize in a type of magic and get a little bit more casting if you cast those specific spell types. And it's a whole thing.
Cool. You haven't finished it, you'll have to talk about it or something.
Yeah, I will. It's a big thing though, and it's a project that kind of just started one day.
I
because
understand. I understand those kind of problems. You just get started on something, and it's a lot. I guess let's give some shout-outs. I usually start with Momo. Give anything a shout-out?
Nope.
And how about you, Worm?
I'm DiamondWyrm. You can find me on Twitter. I'm DiamondWyrm. You can find me on twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm or at DiamondWyrm on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. I don't care.
Yeah.
Or DiamondWyrm
If you call it X, you're a loser.
You can also find me at DiamondWyrm on Triple X. No, I'm just kidding.
Ooh. Sexiest sight of the
yeah.
world.
My next stream will probably be tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. PT.
For myself, my links are down below for all my social media and stuff like that. My next stream will probably be Tuesday for some tabletop, just because I will most likely, at this point in time, be busy Monday with stuff coming out. I'm going to try to figure out my weekly schedule a little bit better. I think it has been a little bit of a up and down this last week. That has kind of showed me that I really do have to kind of sit down and make sure I get everything down a little bit more exact. So work on that. Alright, everybody, thank you for joining. Hope you enjoyed. We chatted a lot about cool stuff. You might have learned some things. Hopefully you did. Whether it's one of our news topics or something else. And, next time we chat, hang out, do anything like that, we talk about some tabletop. Make sure to check us out on Crimson Queen on Wednesday at 9. It's going to be moving to 8 soon. We'll let people know. And then this show next week on Saturday. I can speak English. Alright, bye everybody. Farewell, but I still have English.